What's up, Guerrilla Social Workers? Welcome to the Guerrilla Social Work Podcast with your hosts, Jeff La Cama del Fuego Moore, and yours faithfully, Mace Warren. Jeff and I are both forensic psychotherapists specializing in clinical treatment of individuals involved in the criminal justice system, and we love sharing our protracted ponderings with all of you. We have a special guest joining us today, Mr. Brett Hoxer. Brett is a certified mental health counselor providing assessment and clinical treatment to adult sex offenders. Our topic of discussion today focuses on pornography. We get into pornography use leading to depression, relationship turmoil, and other challenges, the evolution of pornography, and whether or not it should be considered an addiction. Thanks again for listening, and without further delay, enjoy the show.
Yeah.
It looks enough like him.
Yeah.
Passing resemblance.
Yeah. That little voodoo doll, man.
He's gotten progressively dirtier too.
Yeah. Because I'm handling them every week. I need to wash my hands.
Oh no, yeah, you do.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen his keyboard on his computer?
My keyboard's fine.
Oh, dude. Try not to, because it's a disgusting mess.
It's all propaganda.
No,
All lies.
no, it's gross.
Shenanigans.
It's like that. I don't know what. It's like kind of like toe jam all over his keyboard.
I work really hard. You
Yeah.
know, like
Well-
it's an effort. It's an effort juice.
Oh, yeah, but it's not juice though.
It's sweat.
It's a jam.
Your fingers sweat when you type, Jeff?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. That's how fast I type.
Yeah, but okay. I guess my question is when does that turn into like goo? Like, I mean,
Yeah,
my
when
sweat.
does it consolidate?
My sweat doesn't turn into goo ever.
I reject the premise. It does not turn into goop. It stays a nice salty.
Do you want to go get your laptop right now?
I
and
will.
Show me the trackpad.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I will show you.
Hang on. Who uses a trackpad?
No.
Well,
Good
I'll
point.
I promise you, I could take a butter knife and peel that goo
That's
off
probably
this
true.
trackpad.
That's probably true. I have had fights with people, Nita namely, about using a trackpad. Just like, what? Why? Do you really hate yourself that much?
Yeah.
to use a
It
trackpad?
sucks.
Well, when you don't have a mouse available.
Yeah, but like,
They suck. They're just worse.
like it's
They're worse.
2022. You can't get a wireless mouse.
Yeah.
Right? Well, yeah.
Way more control with a mouse.
Yeah. It's like but what if you have nothing to put it on?
Well, you guys
Does it
need an
float?
option. Well, no, I put my mouse. I'll put it where the trackpad is.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, you're one of those people, huh? Okay.
Yes.
Smart.
I've seen
Yeah,
that
I can
before.
get there.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So, welcome back, man. When was the last episode that you had with us?
Oh, I don't know. It's been a hot minute.
It was a long time ago.
Yeah.
It was the moral dilemmas.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
3-ish years ago.
Has it been 3
It's
years?
been a minute.
That doesn't even seem right.
Yeah.
I know. We
Damn.
should have had way more episodes by now, too.
Oh no,
It's
that was
been
like
3
5
years.
episodes ago.
I know. I'm like, yeah, that's a weird group, fun group though.
Yeah.
It's always kind of We'll have to revisit that.
Yeah,
Have
exactly.
some additional moral dilemmas.
Yeah, that's always a favorite to run.
Yeah, that's good. What? How's it going though, man?
Good.
Yeah.
Can't complain about it.
Obviously, you're not dead from COVID.
No.
Yeah?
No. I've managed to avoid that.
Did you get it yet?
No. I mean, super knock on wood here.
I think though the fact that we're like, it's so funny. I have people that tell me, of course, and you know me. I just think it's laziness. People, I got exposed. They're like, I saw somebody on TV that had COVID.
Right.
Or
I better take 2 weeks off.
Yeah, I saw somebody on TV who played an actor that pretended they had COVID. So I got to take 2 weeks off.
Gotta take
CDC
one
guidelines.
Yeah,
Yep.
I'm kidding. But like, people talk about exposure, but like I'm thinking about at jail, how we like we are constantly face to face with, and it's not just no masks. I mean, they're legit. They don't even have any clothes. Like you know, if they're on the like acute mental health side, it's screw mask. You know, and we're talking right to them, and I'm like, at one point or another, we've had to have been exposed.
Absolutely.
I mean, I know we're exposed, but I want to say we got it. We just didn't know it.
I've wondered about that. Like I got tested for antibodies like about this time last year, and thought for sure it would come up that I, had been exposed. I was working 3 days a week at a county jail, and all the things. I thought for sure I would have tested positive for antibodies. Nope,
nothing.
Yeah, and then I got sick like just before Christmas, and like thought I was losing my sense of like taste and smell for a minute. Yeah, and kind of freaked out a little bit, like crap. And it was like a Saturday night, and I thought if I still feel crappy in the morning, I'll go get tested, and I felt fine. Yeah, and so I don't know what that was, but maybe I had it for I don't know. I have no idea. And then I got tested like shortly after that, and it was negative.
Nice. Have you had an antibody test?
No. Yeah. I was thinking though, like I got a double entendre for it. Wait, I don't even know, what is that? A double entendre? Is that
the double meaning?
Okay, yeah, double entendre. April Fool's joke. Okay. And anybody listening to this can be ready for it. So on April Fool's, like you have to work on this ahead of time. And for whatever reason, say, hey, we got to do some testing, so on and so forth, significant other, coworker, whatever. And then on April Fool's, you tell them they came up positive, right? Now you think that's the April Fool's, but they're, oh my God, I got COVID. Oh no, you came up positive for AIDS. Like, yeah. No, what?
Gotcha.
April Fool's, then punching.
Yeah. I'm kidding. That doesn't seem like a joke.
Just kidding. That'd be funny though. So,
did you think we're gonna get one of those Joe Rogan misinformation disclaimers on our, now that we're Spotify's going to set us down with
about what?
COVID.
Just that all?
Yeah, just yeah.
You reference, well, that's what Instagram does. Like you post anything with COVID, anything like on a story, and you for sure get the banner.
Yeah.
We haven't said anything bad about it,
but we said that word.
Okay,
you said the word thought police.
Well, hold on though. Let me just tell you, I love vaccines. Okay,
yeah,
I drink a new one every day.
You too, huh?
Right.
Cheers.
Yes, I have a picture of Anthony Fauci in my
boudoir.
Yep. And I love everything about it. Why don't we just lock down again? Okay. Like, I mean,
for a year.
Yeah. And screw like one mask, dude.
Right.
Those industrial strength gas masks for like mustard gas. I went to Smith and Edwards and got one of those old school ones from World War II.
You're really doing the work there.
Yeah. Right. So, I mean, that's what I'm saying.
Right.
I appreciate you. Yeah.
So I came up with a decent idea for us to kind of talk about today, as far as because this one of our therapists posted this it was a news story, a local news story in one of our channels, and I thought we'd start off with this, but it sparked an idea for me to kind of talk about pornography in general, because this is something that all of our clients have to deal with on a pretty regular basis, and I think I get a lot of questions about this from just people who don't work in this industry, and they tend to think that for whatever reason, that if you bring pornography into the mix, that they, I don't know, like with sex offenders, it's like
gas in the flame.
Yeah. Like it's and it's just, and I guess talking about it just in general, I kind of had some ideas of seeing where it's come to this point in time and just giving our opinions on this. You guys down for that?
Yeah.
So I was looking at this. This is kind of a crazy story though. This was that the ABC4 news thing.
Oh yeah.
So the headline is, Woods Cross police now have a canine trained to sniff out child sexual assault. Look at that. Okay, let's see what these guys have to say.
I know what they're doing here, but that's such a weird title.
Or news.
All right, well, when it comes to fighting pornography, Woods Cross Police and Operation Underground Railroad have a unique way to crack down on crime. Now, this is incredible to me. We are talking about the dog you see right here, this lab. His name's Flash. With me, though, we have J.C. Holt with Operation Underground Railroad and Detective Kimberly Burton with Woods Cross Police. Thank you both for joining us, and also Flash.
By the way, shout out to Operation Underground Railroad.
That's right. Yeah.
Tell us what this is, a porn-sniffing pooch. What does this even mean? You can explain, Detective.
Yeah, so Flash is an electronic storage detection dog. So he actually sniffs out small electronic devices that store information such as cell phones, iPads, flash drives, SD cards, hard drives. So anything that contain information. So we use him in child exploitation cases or cases that might contain child pornography. And he can seek out the devices, and then we can inspect them further upon that.
Okay, and he's really unique. There are only how many of these types of trained dogs in the police force?
So in Utah, he's only the second dog that is in service. So right now, Weber County has one. And so he's the first dog that is in Davis County, and we've been working a lot with Salt Lake County on different searches and search warrants.
Oh, my word. Okay, either of you add this, you tell me, but how does Flash, a dog like Flash, being one of two here in Utah, change this work as you're trying to find these types of devices in people's homes you suspect may have them?
Yeah, I would say, it greatly enhances the efficiency for the officers to be able to search. Sometimes these devices are very small, and these dogs are able to come in a more expedited manner and hone in on where those devices are, thereby saving the officers a lot of time on search warrants. So.
Absolutely incredible. The idea to bring a canine in and to train them to find this device, is this within the last several years, a new thing? Where are we at in the timeline of detective work?
It is. It's been growing more and more the last several years, but they're getting more popular.
And that B-roll is awful.
What kind of evidence law enforcement has missed over the years.
Sniffing on the sidewalk, getting a treat.
They don't even look like devices. So Flash can pinpoint those and help us make investigations quicker.
Okay, I'm going to be honest. When I heard that we were doing an interview about a porn-sniffing dog, I thought, how is this even possible? Can you kind of explain what exactly? I know you said he's sniffing out these devices, but how so?
Wait, what? How much more can you get into this at this point? I mean, because I hear porn sniffing dog and I'm like, dude, that's amazing. He can sniff out pornography, like especially digital pornography, but really he can just smell like digital devices. Right. I mean, he might sniff out an Apple remote.
So it's not just that the actors and actresses need to be more hygienic.
They have their musk comes through digitally. Digital musk.
Digital musk. Well, like, what are they smelling though? In the is it some element that's in the that. Yeah? Like, what's the actual thing that differentiates it from? I mean, I don't know, a piece of plastic, like from any. Because I thought like a hard drive was just what, plastic and metal and
I don't know, microchip, whatever. I don't know.
Yeah. I'm sure there's some commonality, or
that's what I want to find out.
That's in there.
Maybe we'll find out.
I don't think so. All
right.
So storage devices can contain a lot of information. I mean, they contain images of child pornography or explicit image of other people. They can also contain information relating to financial crimes.
Right.
So Operation Underground Railroad, they are one of the leaders in fighting child exploitation and child trafficking. So they are the ones that sponsored this dog for us. And so we have used them in several different investigations and searches for child exploitation.
Already, he's found some devices for you, right?
He has, yes. He's done great so far. So there was one search warrant that we went on that he found several iPads, several SD cards, and a couple thumb drives and a cell phone that we had missed.
That you would miss, so you wouldn't have found were it not for Flash.
Yes, that's correct.
That's absolutely incredible. So tell us too, JC, just a bit about how big of a problem child pornography is, child exploitation, all of that here in Utah, and why, again, Flash is just such an asset to the team.
Yeah, I mean, this is a crime that our officers are seeing more and more of. I was a police officer for 20 years, recently retired, and in my career I saw it a lot, and it continues to evolve. We have these types of crimes reported in every state, and a dog like this that can be a tool on these teams that are specifically going out and cracking down on these types of crimes is a great impact for them. We're happy to sponsor Flash for Woods Cross. We've been able to, we actually sponsored 17 dogs last year across the United States that are equivalent to Flash in their ability in 15 different states. And
all right, we got it. Jeez. I mean, but dude, like I guess I just look at this and I'm thinking, well, one thing would be super cool is I love those blooper videos of when like reporters are doing some sort of thing with a wild animal and that animal just bites their face off.
Oh, those are great. You were waiting for that?
Yeah. I mean, he seems like a nice lady and all, but man, I never miss a blooper.
Right. The dog just sniffs out porn in her phone. She's like, oh God.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So it's kind of, man, it's like, I think that shows like how, and this is not a bad thing, by the way, but like how invested law enforcement and everybody else is to like seeking this stuff out. And I mean, I guess what is that? Why are we, I mean, child pornography is obvious. Like there's, a huge problem there, but I mean, like it just seems like, it's a weird double standard because here in a minute, I just wanted to go over some statistics with porn use. We have like the biggest problem with it in terms of like how people are using it and our opinions about that. But then at the same time, we have the biggest problem with it in terms of so many people are using it. So what is it?
I porn specifically? Because in a general sense, like if you're just talking about porn in general, like a lot of people look at it and then a lot of people say they have a problem with it.
Yeah.
But I mean, child porn's a different animal. So we could probably should differentiate the two.
Don't call those kids animals, dude.
Yeah. I'm not very empathic, am I?
Yeah.
Those kids in child porn.
I mean, but I guess my thing is the use of porn gets very moral very quickly, right? Like there's even more so than like gun ownership almost. Like there's no, I mean, it's funny because people who sometimes use porn, they're pretty open about it. Like, or some people are, and they just talk about it, whatever, like, I mean, you listen to some podcasters and they're just like, whatever, but then, man, like other times people are very against it and everything. I'm not for it. I'm just wondering, the real problem is not necessarily pornography. It's, I suppose, like all in how it's used, right? Like, doesn't that turn in, that's where the issue comes from, right? I mean, I don't know.
Like it as opposed like well, again, are we talking about regular porn or child porn?
I'm talking about regular pornography. Child pornography, I think you throw it out the window because it's illegal. It's wrong. There's no exceptions for it whatsoever.
Right. Never okay.
But I mean, like even with our clients, so if somebody asked you or you, Brett, like if somebody just said, hey, so say I have a new person working with one of these guys and they're like, oh, he looked at porn. Like, isn't he now does he go back to prison? Is he going to reoffend now or something like that? Right, I mean, and we have to kind of educate them, but I don't think people understand what role does porn play in like a sex offender who's trying to rehabilitate.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, specific to what we do, pornography is like, I guess, anti-pornography stipulations are basically ever present. They're ubiquitous on probation and parole agreements. And I mean, it's built into our program as well. Like even without a porn stipulation on a probation or parole agreement, we still, for our own reasons that we can get into, we don't allow for pornography, but it's maybe not for the reasons that people think. There's the idea that, and we talked about this I think the first time we talked about porn, is that there's this belief that pornography is like a step on the way towards sexual offending, drug. A gateway drug. Yeah.
I wonder about there's like that famous, like Ted Bundy interview where he talked about like, I watched pornography and that's where it started. I can't remember if that's exactly what he said.
That's basically,
I can remember like, talking about that, a few years ago, running a group, and one dude like lit up and he was like, so what? So everyone that's watched pornography is Ted Bundy? And like, gratefully.
But yes, that's what we're saying.
Gratefully, no, obviously not. And I wonder if like that's kind of where that comes from. Is that like is that the seed of sexual deviance? That well, Ted Bundy was, you know, a huge.
Dude, I know that had an impact on the way that we talk about porn. Like, that people reference that all the time, and it's like it's not just a gateway to sexual reoffense; it's a gateway to murder and necrophilia.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, like all manner of awful, terrible.
Yeah, porn is the hub, so to speak.
Right.
Well, and Ted Bundy was, I mean, obviously super manipulative and super intelligent too, but you
kind of admire him.
Oh yeah. I mean, I don't want to say he's my favorite. I'm just, but I mean,
that's what I'm taking from this conversation.
No, I always just like give credit where credit's due, right? Yeah. You know what I mean?
Game recognized game.
Yeah, I mean, like a lot of people give like Charles Manson all the credit. I'm like, that dude never even killed anybody.
Yeah,
Come on, carved a Nazi symbol into his head.
Talk some hippies into smoking some people.
Yeah, everybody's on acid. Like,
hippies.
No, I was just thinking about that. Like, it's so hilarious because the whole time he's like, no, I'm not blaming the porn. Then goes on to blame porn for 100%. Everything that went into 100%. This. He even like at one point, I think he was like suggesting he turned into like a demon, like possessed.
Well, do you think he believed that, or do you think he's using it as a rationalization?
I think I was watching it, and that was like hours before his execution.
Yeah,
and like it was funny. If you watch the whole interview, there was like a part on there. Go back and watch it. There's like a part where there's a phone call. And he's like, "Is that the governor? You know, he's going to grant me clemency." You know what I mean?
Oh man,
yeah. Like I think that psychologist was coming in there, and I don't know if that psychologist had an agenda or whatever, but I mean, like it definitely cast a negative shadow on pornography. And my thing is, what I want to say is like, okay, is it a problem? Well, I don't know. To say in general it's a problem, I don't know if that's necessarily fair. And also, it diminishes, like, because the likelihood that you're just ever going to get rid of porn is, in my opinion, kind of a losing way to look at it, because it eliminates control from your hands. So if you perceive it to be a problem, which it might be, right? I don't know if it's going to be a problem or not. If it's going to be a problem, if you just say we need to get rid of it, that's the only solution. Well, good luck.
Right.
And it takes the control out of your hands and puts it in a fantasy, that says that's never going to happen. So,
and that's like where our world is weirdly at. Like anything we don't like, ban. Like, oh, guns are bad, ban. Oh, you know what I mean? Like, and that's not, I don't think that's realistic or effective or rational. Like, I think about like, look at individuals, right? Look at individual people like making decisions rather than, totally across the board blanket statement. You know what I mean? And like you say, like, is it a problem? Like, I mean, I think so, but that like, so just ban it. It's bad. Ban it. Like that's not.
I mean, that's been attempted.
That's not realistic or effective, right?
It was a First Amendment issue that Larry Flint.
Right.
The pornographer dude.
Right.
Yeah.
So I was I wanted to maybe talk a little bit too about like the evolution of porn, like how things. Do you guys know who Bobby Hollander is?
No.
Okay, don't start searching him because then you'll get viruses. Okay, but cool. I have this. So
you've already got the viruses, or what?
No. So I was listening to Adam Carolla, and he had this intro. So this is. Do you remember the old Alfred Hitchcock movies or shows? And he would come out whistling, and then he'd talk about it before the show came on.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So this doofus, he was a porn director, right, back in the 80s. So I think this clip is from, it's 1983.
And he would go,
he does this prior to, but
it tells you what you're going to see.
Right. But nowadays, see, like, okay, so I just want you to think, like, compare, this is 1983. When were you born?
87.
Okay. So this is like in the era of when we were kids and when likely we would be exposed. Now we had the luxury of lack of access, right? But just, I wanted to look at this, and then we compare that to, I kind of have a middle of the road, like comparison of where pornography is, and then
like spicy podcast today.
I know, right? But this, my friends, is hilarious. So
1983.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me cue this sucker up here.
Hi. You thought it was Alfred, but it's not. My name is Bobby Hollander, and I'd like to introduce you to a tape called The Personal Touch. Now, the personal touch is something different in home entertainment. It's strictly adult, it's strictly X, and it's hot. It's so hot, it's going to blow your balls. It's going to want to make you wet your hands. It's going to want to make you reach in and grab it. What? It's going to want to make you come right on your television.
Oh my God. Oh, it is creepy.
Personal touch means personal touch. It stars Shauna Grant, Sharon Mitchell, Paul Thomas, Ron Jeremy, Dominique, a newcomer to the screen, Gene Hollow. The Personal Touch was shot on videotape to give you the finest quality in adult entertainment.
Obviously, look at this video.
It's going to let you, the home viewing audience, get out of your bed, off your couch, out of the bar, and you guys that are watching it in a bar are going to be into the bathroom in a minute, pulling your wang. I don't mean to say it in an obscene way.
I love I don't mean to say it in an obscene way. Yeah, you
wang.
Shauna Grant in this film, who stars, you've seen in Penthouse. You've seen in Swank, High Society, Chic, Hustler.
You haven't seen her in actual High Society. That's obvious.
Genesis and Gallery. She's gorgeous.
He's looking me in the eye too much.
I was just that's my least favorite part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's going to tell you how you can write to her personally.
Oh, yeah.
And get a free, black and white, personally autographed photo of her just by sending your name and address.
Wow.
I'm also
it's no hope, it's no joke.
Like, this is going
and we know.
I know. He just keeps talking.
Yeah.
Ladies.
Yeah, like really, how many people? I mean, they didn't have scrolling back then, obviously.
That's true.
Right.
With 5 on yourself, or do it lubricated.
Oh my God.
But this tape is designed to make you want to do it. It's directed to you. We hope you blow your nuts off.
What?
Because it was made that way.
This guy.
And before I blast off my mouth and go any further, let me introduce.
But what do you mean blast off your mouth? You've already done all that.
Miss Shauna Grant.
Fun fact. Look at this forced kiss.
How you doing? Thanks for the intro.
Fun fact, this girl killed herself later, so that's sweet.
Damn.
With an AK-47 nonetheless.
I will send you a picture and I will autograph it.
Super.
Damn, that's kind of dark.
Send your name and address to.
I know, right?
KIN.
All right, we got it.
ID.
Right.
So I mean, like,
right,
dude, that is it. If you think about like
that dude is ridiculous. He's silly.
Yeah, like, can you even imagine? Like, this is how. I mean, it was such a production back then. Right. You know what I mean? It was such a big deal back then, and it was like if you were to find that video as a kid, you'd be like, what? It'd be like it's like that South Park episode. I don't know. It's like the Lord of the Rings, and they find a porno. It's so hilarious, and they think they're returning like Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, whatever, and all the I mean, it literally the kids. That's how it was back in the day. You know what I mean? But it's weird because it just doesn't have that same mysticism or value these days, which is, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, because the access is so through the roof now.
Some of both.
Yeah,
probably like the. Yeah.
You mean because we're saturated with it?
Right.
Well, yeah, you don't need, I mean, you don't need to find a video any longer. I mean, it's not like,
like an actual tape.
Yeah, dude. I mean, think about that. Like, I remember when I was, I was probably 8, I think, the first time, and I, classic story. I like found it under my uncle's bed. Right. You know what I mean? And I felt like I was in Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark. I'm like,
wait,
like I get, is there going to be a trap when I grab this? You know what I mean? And I'm like, and then I grab and I expect a booby trap to go off. Yeah. Pardon the pun on the booby. Hey, zinger. Yeah, but I mean, like. it was just such a a mystery and something that like was so out of the character for any kid or anything to have back then. Now it just doesn't have that same feel to it. Maybe just because we're older, but
right.
I mean, I don't know. You don't have to look hard anymore.
This does remind me of like, and I'm gonna tread lightly here, talking to.
Don't get us canceled,
older
bro.
clients, talking to clients of a more advanced age, and talking to them, through them or with them through what happened with their charge and different things, and really just sexual things in general. It reminds me a lot of this, like similar attitudes and then things that I'm hearing this dude say to like what some of those guys say. Whereas you talk to like a 25-year-old now about it and like talking about, hey, so, what role has porn played in your life? Drastically different.
Like what?
Right?
His clients are saying, I blew my balls off.
Right. Like you just, there's like a level of like, I don't know, like fascination, like fixation in such like a, well, creepy, let's call a spade, right? Way from this dude. And hearing some of our older clients talk about some of those things, like that's for sure what it makes me think of. Like I said, you talk to a dude who's, I don't know, 20, 25, even a little bit older, 30, early 30s. It's drastically different. There's not, because even like their first exposure is probably still something similar to like what you're talking about, Mace, where like they found a magazine or they stumbled across a video and there's still this like, whoa, what's here? What's this? But it's like, and maybe this is speaks to kind of the proliferation, the access that we've talked about here, right? That you see like. It's just there. There's no like mystique surrounding it. It's just like there it is.
It's like the air.
Yeah. and then like the assumption too, where like sometimes you talk to guys and it's clear that it's just been so part of their life for forever, and they'll say like, well, what's the big deal? It's just porn. It's just it's two adults having sex. What's the big deal?
Well, yeah, and that's why I wonder if that's a good thing or a bad thing, because so. But part of it is, like when we were younger, and you would know this, like Mr. B's, down in downtown Ogden.
I still can't believe it took him that long to doze that place.
Right. And
because it was empty for like 10 years plus.
But that was the only way.
Right.
Or I mean, if you just find something or is passed down through generations or something.
Yeah.
Generations.
I mean, that's what I'm saying though. Think about
like a
generations.
Family,
what?
Like an heirloom.
What?
Yeah. Well, this is gross.
Questions, bro.
My grandpappy's pappy had this porno.
My great Uncle Jim gave me the personal touch.
Yeah.
And now I'm giving it to you, boy. But I mean, like,
man,
I don't see that, but it's weird because in a weird way, it almost gave it more value. If it's rare and it's hard to acquire,
then
it's more valuable. Now it's more ubiquitous now, of course, but the value of it has gone down. But I don't know if that's helpful with whether or not it's still like a problem. Like that's the whole thing, is it's evolved to the point where
the problem would be that, like, if it sort of takes away the mystique or the value of pursuing a normal, healthy sexual relationship as well, maybe.
Right.
Yeah. Well, so like if we fast forward, I saw this.
I don't know what the hell you're going to show us.
Yeah. No, we don't have anything.
I'm scared.
Mace Warren selected these videos.
This is just a news article because I thought this was useful for us to talk about, and this was published in December 15th, 2021. And this is from the New York Post. So this is Pornhub reveals 2021's most popular searches in America. Now, first things first, if you guys can see this, you probably can, if you're watching or if you're listening. But so the United States beats everybody as far as looking at porn. Like that's where the most,
like per capita, or that's,
well, I don't know what
sheer.
Let's see. What is this saying? It says, That's the adult site further revealed that Americans were the biggest porn consumers on the planet. Brits were made up the second largest, while Japanese placed third. Top 20 countries. So this is just where most of I would just imagine this was the traffic that they logged altogether.
That's what it is.
Pornhub is lifting the lid on America's X-rated viewing habits, revealing their website's most popular searches for 2021. The most popular search term across the United States was hentai, a type of Japanese anime.
Nerds,
right?
All of you.
Pornhub revealed that hundreds of thousands of hentai videos can be found on our website, including professional productions, homemade animations made by fans, and 3D generated scenes.
People are drawing porn and uploading it.
I mean, what else do you do with your time, right? On an equally bizarre and sexy spectrum, the Suicide Squad anti-hero Harley Quinn was the most searched movie franchise or character, followed by Wonder Woman, Harry Potter, Star Wars, and Black Widow. Meanwhile, the most searched porn star by Americans was Lana Rhoades. Okay, whatever. Oh, wait. Illinois-born actress quit the industry earlier this year and says she now regrets making adult movies. Oh. Okay, good for you. No nudity here, by the way. Rose, let's see here. I wanted to get to... Okay, here we go. Yeah, most search of 2021. So here's top porn stars searched. Trending searches: lesbian, scissoring, mature MILF, Ebony Big, Hooters. Hooters? Somebody is searching Hooters?
Well, think about the terms they're using to describe it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like...
Right.
Boiling it down right to...
This is what I thought was... So, Ebony remained the most viewed category of video for the second year running, ahead of lesbian and MILF. Searches for the word trans were up 134% compared to last year. According to Pornhub, 67% of American visitors were male, although the share of females users slowly increased this year. The average age of the U.S. Pornhub user was 37. However, sexed up seniors aged 65 and over accounted for 7% of all visitors. How do they know that, though?
Right.
Like, they have to be registered users to access it?
They must be doing I don't know. That's a good question.
Or you have to, right?
Are they grabbing your data? Like from, I don't know how that works. This is, you're showing my ignorance of tech stuff.
Maybe.
Right?
Yeah.
Who signs up for a porn site? Like,
well, I mean, if you... do you have to sign up to log in and look at videos? I mean, I know it's free, but...
No, I don't. I can't imagine that... I don't know.
You could just YouTube stuff too,
right?
Yeah. And look, if they do base it off people that create an account, that itself is going to be a skewed sample.
Right.
There's like a type of person that does that.
Right.
Look at this though. United States top relative searches.
Look at Idaho.
Well, look at giantess.
Giantess.
That's a huge.
What?
So this is okay. Look at this. So
what is this?
Montana is so explicit I can't even read it. I'm not kidding either.
Right, it's blurred out,
and I'm not clicking on that because I don't know where it'll take me.
Yeah, good plan.
California's Asian.
You gotta click Montana.
Nevada. It's not. It's for the whole thing though. Nevada is twerking. Idaho is giantess. Utah's Mormon. New Mexico is wait, no, that's Arizona. Is strip.
This can't be right.
New Mexico, I don't know what it is. Colorado is huge boobs. Wyoming is hardcore. What are some other ones? New York is foot job. Holy moly!
What you doing out there in New York?
Wow. Just some of these are so look at Louisiana, naked women. It's generic.
I think I know what Montana's is. I'm not going to say it.
Oh, is it naughty?
Yeah.
But I mean, so it kind of goes on here. Interestingly, users in Republican states lasted longer on the sites, with Pornhub viewers in Wyoming, Mississippi, Alabama, and Arkansas all reporting an average visit time above 10 minutes. Wow, what a record. However, Pornhub explained that those states may simply have slower internet. They're still using AOL dial-up, and not residents who last longer in the bedroom. What does that even... This is a scientific study.
What?
Meanwhile, the company...
News article?
I was going to say...
New York Post.
New York Post, I don't know how...
Meanwhile, the company claims Americans are pretty regular when it comes to their masturbation schedule, with Sunday... the most popular day for self-pleasure. The website experiences the most traffic in the U.S. around 11 p.m., right before everybody goes to bed.
Crack went off before Monday.
Notably, Pornhub experienced a dramatic drop in traffic during February Super Bowl, with Americans swapping frisky videos for football. I mean, priorities.
Okay,
right?
Yeah, exactly.
Traffic plunged almost 20%.
That makes me proud to be an American.
Right.
Almost 20% during the first half of the game, but noticeably picked back up during halftime.
What?
Well, it's like if your team's losing, you gotta.
Is this for real?
Yeah, this is real. That means that many naughty NFL viewers snuck away some self-pleasure instead of sticking around to watch The Weeknd perform the halftime show. Holy cow. Well, for whatever reason, I mean, they are for sure tracking this stuff.
All right, so what do you draw? What conclusions do you draw from this? What, like, because you're comparing it to the 1980s, like, whatever that strangely aggressively confrontational,
right?
Jerry Bolander or whatever.
Bulls off.
You're gonna blow your bulls.
I mean, think about like the like anime, and then it was a bunch of like, and maybe it's just the way the article told it. So I don't know if this is entirely accurate, but like things that are just, I mean, pornography, I would argue, like, is decidedly not representative of like actual human intimacy.
Right.
But this is a step further where it's, it's anime, it's movie characters, and especially like fantasy and comic book related.
So we get like further and further.
Yeah, like further detached from reality.
Dude,
like I'm almost reminded of if you're a fan of The Office.
Yeah. Cool.
And Dwight has the Second Life game, and he's like in the Second Life, he created his Second Life character created a Second Life, and it's like just and Jim says something like even just to further detach from reality.
It's like a copy of a copy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So here's the thing though that I kind of like about this, and I don't know if you guys picked up on this. So that reminds me, I think we thought about that, and I think of one of our friends that for a period of time, I swear, he was playing World of Warcraft, and it was a problem, right? Like, it consumed his life. He was late for work. Right. He never hung out with his friends. Like,
had a roommate in grad school that did that,
Yeah, didn't have any, couldn't date.
Claims people.
Couldn't date girls. I mean, he literally, like, and I mean, whatever. No shade on World of Warcraft. What I'm saying though is that's kind of what you were
going on record. Shade.
Yeah.
Well, that's what you were referring to.
Put the hammer down.
That's what you were referring to earlier. Was at the point where it starts to interfere with your life. That's where it's a problem, right? The encouraging stats that came from that was, did you see the average user time?
10 minutes.
Less than 10 minutes.
Right.
So it's less than 10 minutes for the average user time. So what I'm saying is,
except for those Republicans.
Oh yeah, they're
but that's
a little, but they're a little more than 10 minutes. But I'm saying if the statistics are true, and Pornhub's obviously tracking that because that's, I mean, they're at the end of the day, they're a business, right? And they have trying to get to consumers. So that's why they have that data.
Right.
So if they know that one day a week is really popular, Sunday around 11 p.m., and they know the average user is, I mean, I'm sure there's people who are on it much longer than 10 minutes, but they know the average user is less than 10 minutes. I mean, if that's one day a week, less than 10 minutes, is that really leading to a problem in your life? You know what I mean? Is that really leading to dysfunction in your life?
If what we're inferring from your statistics is accurate, I suppose not.
Right.
Well, because I think it's obvious if you were watching it hours and hours a day comparative to Second Life or World of Warcraft.
Right.
Yeah, that would just by sheer amount of time, it would have to interfere with like your regular life activities.
So, in other words, okay, on average, potentially, the scope of the problem might not be as big, but I think Brett had an interesting point with like the detachment of it. If hentai is another, like nerds, I don't know, like if that's the number one thing, and again, I don't know, I don't think that. I think it's kind of like the other way around. I don't think it's porn that's driving people towards these further detached thing. I think it's that like we're detached.
Yes.
And as a result, look at porn.
And then you think about like the
culturally detached.
Yes, culturally. Yeah. And like, I don't know about you guys, but I'm so sick of hearing like, and this was influenced by the pandemic. This got worse through the pandemic. And maybe that's just because like we're just so over it, just like saturated on COVID, everything, right?
Yeah.
But like, then you kind of wonder like, oh, did, people further isolating?
Yeah, dude.
Did that further like detach somebody from like actual human connection.
It would be interesting to compare this year's porn by state to previous years to kind of like do like some trends to see if that was COVID increase.
That was 2021.
Let's look at 2019.
I was gonna say 2019. What happened there?
Well, I don't know, but my thing is, if that was 2021, that's not that bad. You know what I'm saying? Right. Like, I don't know if it's that. Again, I mean, I'm just saying average. And obviously there's people using it for much longer than that. But if the average is less than 10 minutes, and again, look, I'm not saying porn's good. That's not what I'm suggesting. I'm saying that to the degree that it's interfering with life, I mean,
well, you're talking the quantity. We're talking the content.
The content. Here's the content, though, and this is where I think the difference in factor comes in. Is like, you can say, okay, so like before we came down here, I was playing Fortnite with my kid, right? And Fortnite, video game, you're shooting people, killing people, whatever. It's just a fun game. You're playing against people from around the world, right? They're all probably 14-year-olds. Okay, so violent, you know. I mean, your computers, and it makes it apparent. There's no blood or anything like that. Just kind of a fun game. Now, so people sometimes say, well, yeah, I just detach from reality for a minute, get to play this game and chill out, decompress. Now, porn is offering the same thing. So
it's like, what's the difference?
Right. Well, the difference is I'm not masturbating to Fortnite.
You're not? I thought it was a fun game.
Well, and it appears to me, and maybe I'm an idiot, call me naive, but I would imagine that nobody's watching pornography for the plot at this point, right? I mean, nobody's watching, damn, this is a good movie, dude. Right. You know what I mean? So nobody's watching it for the plot, and they're using it solely as an arousal mechanism reinforcer for purposes of masturbation.
It's a tool.
Right. So that's where I think the X factor comes in, right? And this is to the point, like, where people start to ask us, and the word addiction gets thrown around, right? And pornography addiction. And this is something that people debate quite a bit. And
yes.
It's weird because I look at it and I don't know. What are you guys' initial thoughts on it? I mean, we'll get into it here for a minute, but I mean, does it start to qualify for an addiction, or?
Well, the colloquial definition, maybe, you know, and that is like something that a person does repetitively because they like it. But like, as far as like a clinical, the way that maybe the three of us might use the term addiction, I mean, no,
maybe not.
Yeah, maybe not.
Yeah.
You know, it's it certainly, you know, pleasure reinforces behavior, and people can use pornography, you know, to the point that, you know, again, same with like World of Warcraft, you know, same type of deal if you're late to work. I mean, you can start to have some things that kind of get close to addiction, but that term's maybe not appropriate really for like, with the way we think of addiction when it comes to heroin. I mean, the three of us, we see what addiction looks like at Weber County Jail. Right. You know, we see what addiction looks like with like a heroin withdrawal.
You get a dude on day 3 of heroin withdrawals, and he's...
Yeah, so porn doesn't do that.
So now, well, hold on. Sensei Kreese would argue with you, okay, from Cobra Kai.
I remember this guy.
Okay, I want you to. I've got videos on top of videos.
All right, okay.
All right. So
I know what this is. This is special.
Yeah, so I love.
I know what this is.
Yeah.
I've not seen Cobra Kai.
You haven't seen Cobra Kai?
This isn't Cobra Kai.
Brett, get out of here.
This isn't Cobra Kai.
No, this isn't Cobra Kai.
I know what this is.
You will like this though.
Yeah.
When you hear these men talking about pornography, the things they say seem almost unbelievable. But if you listen...
By the way, this is like right after the Karate Kid. So can you imagine like his agent, like how happy he was when, hey, bro, they're doing a reboot on Netflix.
Right.
This guy, think of how, I mean, he's doing... Look at that guy. I mean, he is so stoked to be in Cobra Kai right now. Right. If he's doing this documentary, holy cow.
That's a pretty dope braided belt, though.
Oh, yeah, that's pretty sweet.
It's clear that these guys are only demonstrating exactly what social scientists have been finding. Pornography does, in fact, affect the male attitude towards sex, and especially towards women. And because hardcore pornography has now become so mainstream and legitimized, some men don't even mind talking about it on camera. There is no arguing the fact that pornography is a hotly debated issue in America today.
When did this come out?
On the one hand, there are those who believe pornography is harmful to their
mid-90s.
Okay. And should be censored, which of course offends those who believe that any censorship violates freedom of speech, a freedom we as Americans hold dear. widening the divide.
Hey, there it is. The exact clip.
Oh, yeah.
Serial killer Ted Bundy.
And the issue is how this kind of literature contributed and helped mold and shape the kinds of violent behavior.
Bundy's claim that pornography influenced his behavior ignited a huge debate over whether there is a cause and effect relationship between pornography and sexual violence. Today, pornography is more pervasive than ever, from the neighborhood video store to your home computer. Since the late 1970s, the pornography industry has exploded into a multi-billion-dollar a year business. They have exploited every form of communication in order to take it out of the back alley and bring it directly into your home. 90% of all neighborhood video stores have a section for soft and hardcore pornography.
That poor dude. Oh, he knew he was on camera.
And satellite deliver pornography directly to the home. A new trend in the adult bookstore industry is the large outlet chain store, usually in the heart of a suburban neighborhood.
Behind me is an 18,000 square foot porn store called Castle Superstore. Castle boasts that it's going to have 500 stores nationwide in the next 5 years.
How wrong were they?
Well, yeah, right. Exactly.
So see, this is what I'm talking about. Like, this was
got nothing.
So look, this was in the 1990s, and this is a documentary called A Drug Called Pornography, and the whole premise behind this was obviously porn's going to take over the world or whatever, but their predictions were, wildly wrong. Like, they get into the internet piece, but 500 stores,
right.
Like that's like
they didn't take into account the internet.
Right. Did nobody this, like, you go into a videos, and I understand things took out, but like nobody could have predicted this. Like, if that's true,
did
porn industry.
Did Blockbuster predict?
Well, no.
Yeah.
Well,
they should have.
Yeah.
Although if this is I think it's called. So in Phoenix, Arizona, there's a chain of stores, and it's something Castle, and it's like a porn shop or sex shop or something, but they're everywhere, and they look like a castle. Is the reason I know this. I went to grad school in Arizona, and you drive through Phoenix. And
you've obviously been in there multiple times.
Frequent customer. No. Yeah. But it's the weirdest thing. You're like driving down the freeway, and you're seeing like your strip mall, and there's a Best Buy and a Target. What's that thing that looks like a castle? What? And it's and I remember like I had no idea what it was, and I was like, what is that? Because I had seen a few of them. And I can't remember, like with a friend or somebody, and they're like, oh, it's this chain of, I don't know, sex shop, whatever. Yeah. And they said, I don't know if this is the same thing or not, but they're all over down there. So,
really?
Still to this day?
2014, 15, they were.
Why would you need to exist?
People still go into a store, huh?
I don't know.
Well, there's still like a Blue Boutique and a Dr. John's.
Right. So that's not just porn. That's like all kinds of whips and chains and stuff.
Yeah. And maybe it's more that.
Well, this guy,
true.
Yeah. This guy right here, he makes a pretty decent point as far as internet use goes. So let's listen to him for just 1 second.
Oh, what's he going to tell us about the
internet?
And
they say that they're mainstreaming pornography to the public.
The internet has made all types of hardcore and illegal pornography available to anyone with a computer and a modem.
Well, we did a survey a year and a half ago with MSNBC. PhD. It was the biggest survey ever done with internet sexuality, and we found a number of very important findings. One of the findings was the significant percentage of people who were developing sexual problems in their online sexual usage. And this had never been quantified before. And what we found was that 1%, in a very conservative definition of people, had very serious problems with online sexual compulsivity or addiction. And up to 15% of people had some degree of problems with their online sexual usage. And even the conservative definition of 1%, when you think about 20 million people in the U.S. go online for sexual pursuits, 1% of that is 200,000 people with severe sexual problems with the internet. We think that's an epidemic. It's an epidemic that's unrecognized, and it's something that really needs attention.
I'll be at my house and my little brother's on the computer, and he'll be sending stuff back and forth to people that he meets, and you see some pretty crazy stuff on there.
I think the problem with the internet and what makes it more of a concern around issues like pedophilia is that these people form their own virtual communities online.
That's true.
So it's hard for pedophiles to find each other right now. But on the internet, there are places that they can go, and there are groups that they belong to on the internet.
That's worse than ever.
They can trade information, they can trade pictures, they can trade tips, and they also form a virtual community, which means that they insulate themselves further from larger societal values. So they can say, you know what, this is good. Those guys are all picking on us. This isn't a problem. Back in Greece, they did this all the time. And that insulates them and protects them. It makes them
I've
more...
had clients try to sell me.
Dude, that argument has not changed. And that method of like... of that kind of underground way that they're able to kind of interact with one another and share these, that has not changed at all. There's been zero evolution on that front.
Right. You know, we're still having those conversations with clients.
Right. That's kind of the same exact stuff.
Difficult to treat, more difficult to break through the denial, and for them to see it's a problem because they have this community that's supporting their views.
And on the computer, you can get a lot of shit. Pictures of 14-year-olds. Yeah. Oh, definitely even younger.
You know, people ask, why is the internet so powerful around sexuality?
I like this part.
And we think that it's something that we call the AAA engine, which has to do with access. It's there 24 hours, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, whenever you have an itch. Affordability, you know, the internet is such a vast thing that there's supply and demand. You can get all kinds of sexual pictures and all kinds of stuff for free. And the third A is anonymity. So people engage in all kinds of things that they wouldn't do anywhere else. They wouldn't do these behaviors. They wouldn't engage in these behaviors anywhere else. And when you engage in it enough times, there's a concern about whether it desensitizes you to it and whether you're more likely to then take it offline and engage in it offline.
What's on the internet?
Anonymous, free, ever present and available.
Right. Yeah.
Right. That's definitely a thing.
So I think like you look at that, and this is where so they make a case for addiction here, and this is where I wanted to see what your guys' thoughts were on this, because I don't know, man. Like, I guess my biggest beef with addiction in general, that word is just so used inappropriately.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
You know what I mean?
Well, maybe there just needs to be a different word for it, because it can be a problem for people. But like, again, addiction means something different to us because we see what addiction looks like.
Right. So I was kind of looking at this. This was from the Surgeon General's report I wrote because I'm not going to memorize this. They said, the most severe form of substance use disorder associated with compulsive or uncontrolled use of one or more substances. Addiction is a chronic brain disease that has the potential for both recurrence, relapse, and recovery. In that respect, pornography addiction is not recognized by the American Psychological Association, APA, as a mental health problem or disorder like drug or alcohol addiction. So, I mean, DSM-5 doesn't even recognize it at this point. I mean, and I don't know if it necessarily, it's weird though, because they have like a caffeine use disorder and withdrawal. Right.
That almost kills the credibility.
Right. So this is where I'm. So they. Come on. I mean, here's the case for it, and I have one rebuttal that I want them to answer because it's just not the same. Here's my biggest thing is you start to compare things. Like caffeine or pornography or nicotine even, which is, you know, a really addictive substance, or even, I don't know, gambling, for example, you know, that's in there in the DSM-5. You try to start comparing that to opiates and amphetamines. Come on, son. Like it just is, it's universes apart in terms of the effect on the brain chemistry. Right.
And that's not to say that like dude hasn't thrown away his fortune, you know, and lost his maybe even his literal shirt gambling, right? And all the things like I can stop when I want to and it's not a problem and I'm in control, and they're clearly not, right? Like maybe it fits that script. But when you see somebody like, again, opiates, like you will die.
Well, so
exactly.
Withdrawal symptoms, like, you know?
I mean, and certainly, pornography and, I mean, masturbation, you know, and they're one and the same, I suppose. Yes, they're manipulating brain chemistry and they're activating a pleasure sense in your mind. The problem is that, like, drugs actually change brain chemistry, like long term, you know what I mean? To the point where you can no longer release those. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, you know, just think of how many times, you know, guys masturbate and or have sex. And does it ever, I mean, just stop working all of a sudden? Well, I guess in some cases, sure.
Yeah, maybe a little bit, right? But what about the satiation effect? That's got to be something neurochemical.
Sure.
Well, so the one thing, that was one thing that was brought up about, I brought that up about the, do you guys remember that it was a TED Talk, and it was about a guy named Gary Wilson, pretty controversially, did the Great Porn Experiment.
Oh, is this the disease of choice?
Yeah. So he did the Great Porn Experiment, and he was, so his name's Gary Wilson. He died, by the way. So
is that what that was?
Yeah. And he, now look, it's there been some disclaimer on his like porn advocates, I guess. I don't know. They said but he cites this guy, Simon Lajeunesse, who's a Canadian researcher. And basically the reason why he says that the problem is now that there's unending novelty that's associated with today's porn. That's the biggest. Yeah. So the ubiquity of it is now leading to my access is through the roof. And so that's where the problem is. So he calls this the Coolidge effect, which actually has something to do with Calvin Coolidge, by the way.
Oh, good.
Google it. Nothing sexual. It had to do with chickens and stuff.
Chickens.
Hopefully it wasn't sexual. Yeah. But basically they were saying that the Coolidge effect, it's a biological phenomenon seen in animals whereby males exhibited renewed sexual interest whenever a new female is introduced, even after sex with prior but still available sexual partners. To a lesser extent, the effect is also seen among females with regard to their mates. So they did some experiments. The original experiments were done with rats, and they said a male rat was placed in an enclosed large box with 4 or 5 female rats in heat. He immediately began to mate with all the female rats repeatedly until he eventually became exhausted or satiated, right? However, the females continued to nudge him and lick him and try to get him to, do whatever. I didn't know rats did it like this, but yet he didn't respond. When a new female was introduced into the box, he became alert and began to mate once more with the new female. So this phenomenon, it's not limited to rats. And so basically they're saying that the Coolidge effect, introducing new females, or novel females or mates, whatever it is, into this, attributed to an increase in dopamine levels and the subsequent effect upon an animal's limbic system. And so it kind of defeats the satiation effect at that point, right? Provided that, and so porn, I mean, rarely do guys just have a train, unless you're a rock star, I suppose, you just have a line of girls walking into your room, right? To the point that you're no longer exhausted. But
so you condition your brain to respond that way, and then I guess the problem then would be your external reality isn't met.
Well, right, because if you just have a playlist, right. If for those of you who never looked at it's essentially the same thing as YouTube, right? I have my video that I'm currently watching, but then there's suggested videos and there's an endless amount. It's one click and here's a new girl that's on there, so they're suggesting that novelty effect is what's activating some of these things that kind of lead to the addiction. But that's what I'm saying. I mean, and this next part of this video makes a decent call for it, but I wanted to get your guys' take on this, being clinical professionals and all.
When we hear the word addiction, we usually associate it with a substance like alcohol or drugs. Yet pornography, even though not an ingestible substance like cocaine, seems to be used by many people in a compulsive drug-like way. In fact, many pornography addicts exhibit the same symptoms as drug addicts, such as tolerance, the need to have a harder and harder dose, dependence, becoming dependent on your drug of choice, and withdrawal, the feeling of physical pain.
He's in the dumpster looking for pornography.
All these painful symptoms seem to promote out-of-control behavior. As the
robbing the store to get porn.
But how can pornography, something that is not ingested in the body like a drug, be addictive?
How can certain activities that do not involve a drug, like skydiving, eating, or sex, cause such a high or mood alteration? What we realized in the early 70s, when endorphins were just being discovered, was that the capability to get high lies naturally within all our brains. We now understand that non-drug related activities or experiences can stimulate similar chemical reactions inside the brain
that
mimic the action of drugs.
The key to understanding how all...
By the way, dude, this poor sap, can you imagine? He had an agent at one point or another, and his agent was like, dude,
I got you a gig, bro.
Right. That guy has never worked another day in his life.
I was going to say, he can almost not show his face in public.
Look at that guy. I'm just saying, man.
He's the porn guy.
Yeah, the movie? Yeah, you are. You get the hair, man. Yeah.
I recognize that hair.
I always wonder how that goes. When you go to a studio executive and you're casting for a movie, right. You have to give a resume, right? And I assume that resume has your roles that you played. Right? That's your role.
This guy's perfect.
Can you imagine if you were in Human Centipede and you were the middle person and that was your one role?
Yeah.
And
I work well with others.
You were the middle of the human centipede. Okay, we'll give you a call.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's so
highs occur.
Well, what about the casting call for like the ABLE assessment?
Oh, I know.
You know,
those poor saps.
Natural chemicals in our brain work. These natural chemicals are called neurotransmitters. One of the more well-known neurotransmitters are endorphins. Neurotransmitters are produced inside the many billions of brain cells, stimulated by electrical impulses from the nucleus of their home cell. Neurotransmitters are released into the synapse. It is these natural
Dude, that's exactly how it works too, right there.
All highs and
they look exactly like that.
Yes.
Even when drugs are taken, it is still these
that's a live
natural
shot
chemicals that are responsible for the high. Drugs only create a situation for these neurochemicals to overstimulate. Activities or events can also stimulate the release of these neurochemicals. The excitement and danger of risk-taking cause the natural release of the neurotransmitter dopamine into the synapse, creating the same high as cocaine. The phrase adrenaline junkie is actually quite appropriate. The pain and stress involved in bodybuilding
Watch his ponytail.
The natural release
Look at this.
of neurotransmitters called endorphins,
dude.
Creating a sense of euphoria.
You gotta have some balls to walk into a gym looking like that.
The effects
not be that big, no, who's gonna say something?
Yeah, true.
The pornography experience also triggers the release of powerful mood-altering neurotransmitters.
The elements of addiction that we've worked with over the past 20 years that compel people to repeatedly engage in compulsive pleasure-seeking activities are arousal, relaxation, and fantasy. Now, of all the tools for addiction, drugs, gambling, skydiving, and television, sex addiction seems to combine these elements with more frequency and more intensity than any of the other activities. While looking at pornographic imagery, excitatory neurotransmitters are released into the synapse, causing the body to become extremely energized, just like the high of cocaine.
It gave me like an adrenaline rush, like I was doing speed or something. It feels like this incredible charge of life flowing through my veins.
It's like getting a rush in the arm of adrenaline.
At the height of this energized state, orgasm occurs, causing the release of endorphins, which create relaxation and euphoria. So right there in the pornographic experience, we have a synthesis of arousal, relaxation, and fantasy, unparalleled in any of the other addictions.
We now understand that the pornography experience can trigger natural neurochemicals in the brain, just as powerfully or perhaps even more powerfully than the drug experience.
Yeah. So here's what this is, I guess, now so again, if you go back to addiction, I could say, look, anything that you're doing compulsively, right? Where, and for definitions, like compulsive is, I know that what I'm doing is causing problems for me, but I feel compelled to do so, almost so like I can't control it, right? That's what compulsions are. Kind of different than impulsive behaviors. I'm just doing it, even though I know, like impulsive behaviors, I'm not really thinking it through. I just do it, whether or not it causes problems for me. Impulse buy is not necessarily a bad thing, whatever. Compulsive, I know it's bad for me, and I continue to do it. And I'm not calling not bad in terms of pornography's morally bad. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is that you already know it's causing problems in your life, whatever those problems are. It's leading to some form of impairment, and I still feel the need. I have to. I feel like I can't control it. Right.
Right. I know it's maladaptive. I know that this is problematic for the person,
and I want to stop.
Exactly.
Yeah,
but I can't.
But the difference here is so the obvious answer is yes, of course, a certain frequency of that could interfere with your life just on a sheer timetable, right? And yes, I think it could start to, I guess, depending on reinforcement, help you develop maybe an unrealistic sense of what's supposed to happen in the bedroom, right? I mean, like if you look at normal sexual interactions, they're pretty boring for the most part. None of those are going to make it on Pornhub, or anything like that. Like if you put a camcorder in your room, trust me, it ain't making it there. All these are very much a big production. Look no further than Bobby Hollander. Okay? Yeah. But
what a pioneer.
So yeah, it can, and then I think that to some degree, sure, you may not experience as much pleasure or arousal because it isn't so produced. It's kind of like meh, it's kind of meh when it comes to, oh, this is what sex is, so you have an unrealistic expectation. I don't think anybody's ever gone into withdrawals after
that, right. That's right. That's the big piece.
And here's the thing. This is where, like, you could also never overdose on pornography. you could certainly frequency wise, so think about our clients sometimes.
Right.
They're using 5 balloons a day of heroin sometimes. I mean, meth 5-6 times a day.
You could hurt yourself.
Right.
You can overstimulate yourself.
You can increase the frequency, how many times you're actually looking at pornography, and certainly the duration, right?
The guy that, it's been hours a day and misses work.
Yeah, right. You could chafe a little.
So when we're looking at problems, we are always asking, especially when we're talking about symptom reduction, we're talking about a few things. We're talking about frequency, intensity, and duration, right?
Yeah.
You can increase frequency, you can increase duration, but how do you increase intensity? Drugs, I can take a higher dose.
Yeah. Right.
I can take more, and I can use them in different ways. If initially I was smoking it, now I snort it. Now I snort it, now I slam it. You know what I mean? How do you increase the dose of pornography? I mean, you just have multiple screens.
Though?
That's what I would say.
Well,
yeah, is that the novelty? Because often you hear that from a client, and I guess I want to be clear about something. Like, just because one dude experiences that doesn't mean that that's indicative of the whole, right? But how often do you hear a client say something like, well, it started just with that, and then I needed something.
Started with
novelty.
The Sears catalog, ended with child porn.
Yeah. I mean, like, as dumb as that sounds, like, I know you've heard a client say,
I've heard that.
Not necessarily that. Maybe
not like that.
But yeah. And again, that's not indicative of the whole. And I think that's where, between whether it's addiction in general, maybe it's just we need to be more rigorous in our thought as humans, that, okay, because this happens this certain way, that doesn't mean it happens that way every time, all the time. Like, addiction is varied, right?
Like in other words, it's not necessarily these components have to 100% line up in this exact ratio for it to be addiction.
And it will always happen that way, and that's how it's always going to go, and that will always be the consequence or the result, right?
Well, right. And I think, I mean, again, I think it boils down to this. I'm still drawing a blank on the dosage. I don't think you can increase the dose of porn.
Well, no.
You know what I mean? You can just add more to it, and then it's more like in the
if we had to fill the blank, it would be the intensity, the ramping up scale. Right. But no, you only have so much input. You're watching, you could have 5 porn videos going. It's
that's what I'm saying.
Watching all these monitors.
So I think you're starting to think about addiction, and this is where again it misses the mark, because when it takes the control and it moves it a little bit in terms of how you would deal with it. Because, I mean, when you're dealing with somebody with a opiate use disorder, man, their biological ecosystem has legitimately changed to the degree that they need to go through withdrawals, potentially be on medication-assisted treatment, something like that, right? So, I mean, and the same doesn't go for porn. What are you going to do? Watch Cinemax? You dial it down.
There's not a Vivitrol shot for
so
pornography.
Yeah.
So it just, using the word addiction, I think it takes away from things that legitimately call for a much more increased medical intervention, right? That's where I have a problem with using it that way. Now, it's not to underestimate the problems, because, I mean,
can still cause phenomenal problems for somebody, right?
I mean, that study kind of, it pointed out basically that, and they did some of the advocates, there's another study that was put out by the National Institute of Mental Health, and they were, I can't remember the name of the title of it, is really one of those journal titles. It's 5 years long. But one of the things it said is they were advocating for getting pornography addiction into the DSM-5.
Say that again. They were doing what?
Advocating to get pornography addiction into the DSM-5.
Right.
And basically what we were saying was pornography use kind of indicates a 200% increase of dopamine above baseline, right? But I mean, methamphetamine's 1,200%
I was going to
increase.
say
it's not even, again, it's not even in the same universe.
We just need a different term for it.
Right.
Then.
Well, I think
Does it have to be an addiction? Couldn't it be just disorder?
Well, yeah, we have
maybe that's.
Well,
thing.
they've moved away from those things because of stigma or whatever.
Well, damn it, whatever.
They have but I mean,
porn use. What do they call alcohol use?
Alcohol use disorder.
Yeah. What's it called? What
alcohol use disorder?
Well, then why wouldn't porn use disorder just count?
Right.
Because isn't it just more of a compulsive disorder?
Not necessarily.
Well, that's what I'm saying is
maybe. I don't know.
This is how you might treat it. I mean, and we know this. Yes, I mean, this is not a knock on dopamine or anything. Like, dopamine's a great thing, you know. Like
screw dopamine.
Yeah, I mean, it's
I hate dopamine.
The anti-dopamine podcast.
Well, no, it's just like why human beings even like sex, you know, is because it feels good, and it's it's why food is so crazy right now. But even food, like we were never meant to eat a McGriddle ever. Like our
doesn't exist in nature,
right? It's like that's. I mean,
find me that tree.
Yeah, like your taste buds were not evolved to eat a McGriddle, but it does tell you, hey, this is important. And it tastes so good. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not knocking.
So McGriddles. Is that a parallel then? It's like the McGriddle is to food as like Penthouse is to porn, like to sex, to sex, whatever the popular porn mag is, or mag. I don't know.
They even have those.
I was born in the 80s.
No, I'm just hearing a Beastie Boys lyric.
Yeah,
your mom
tickling my best porno mag.
Yeah. No, I'm reminded of this is really stuck in my head. Years ago, over at the jail.
Years ago.
It's when there was, I can't remember what the program was. It was like the state women's
SOAR.
Yeah, that one for substance use. And so these are females that have been sentenced to prison, and as part of their prison sentence, they got moved to Weaver County to do a substance use program, right? Well, there had been, I guess, some problems. And one of our clinicians had helped kind of bridge kind of the gap with some kind of screening tools and different things to get this program up and running. Shout out, Nita.
Holla.
Begrudging. I give Nita so much crap if it feels right that I should publicly say Nita's cool.
Well, she'll probably listen to this
because I give her crap.
She's gonna hear you saying that
all day long, 3 days a week. No, but I remember. An inmate telling Nita that she felt like the clinician that had been previously running the program, like just didn't get where they were coming from, right? And it's common that we hear from clients. How often do you hear from a client? You don't know what my life has been like, you know, and I think just because we're on the other side of the desk or the room that, you know, we've lived just this cupcake cherry life.
That's the implication.
Yeah. And have never experienced, you know, hardship, and arguably I haven't experienced the hardship that a lot of our folks have. But there's almost this level of like, you got to prove it. Right? Like you got to like show me that you're legit. Right.
Yeah. Is this where you tell us that, so you got this from clients and so you did a month-long dive into porn?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. We accept you, Brett, for the guy you are.
He's like a pornography version of Super Size.
Right. Yeah. No, but
it's increasing my empathy.
We're actually coming that direction, oddly enough. But so this client of ours had, in probably pretty confrontational manner, had called out this other therapist saying something like, well, what makes you think you understand my addiction? Right. And if she's in prison for substance use charges, drug charges, like presumably she's had a long history of like, probably wouldn't be out of bounds to say like she's lost custody of children, she's lost family members, like
all kinds of problems.
Yeah. Like we see that stuff all the time. Right. And this therapist said something like, well, I understand because I'm addicted to chicken nuggets.
Okay. Okay.
And here's the thing, like maybe she genuinely does, you know, binge eating disorder. Maybe she does have a, you know, eating disorder of some variety.
That sure fell flat, didn't it?
Right. And maybe she genuinely does. And she said something like, I just can't, you know, pass Wendy's without picking up some of those spicy nuggets, whatever. I don't know what she said.
The client's just like, I hate you.
Right. But those are two very different things.
Yeah.
Right. And again, not, you know, eating disorders are very real and problematic in many different ways. Right. And another thing, like, I mean, who's to say like, oh, this is worse than that? No, because one could be, you know, somebody could have a low level drug problem for years and it would never escalate to the level that an eating disorder would for somebody else. Likewise, people probably aren't dying in withdrawal from,
I hope not,
right, from an overdose on McDowell, or maybe a heart attack, right, but different thing, you know what I mean? And so maybe that's the point, it's just that it's different, like we try to lump all this in together. And Mace, I've heard you talk about
this
before.
In a different category.
Yeah. That like if everything is like, I've heard you talk about this like with sexual assault, right? Where like if everything is sexual assault, like, oh, somebody made somebody feel uncomfortable. That's sexual assault. Well, maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but that's not the same as rape.
Exactly.
Right. And that's what I'm saying. If everything's addiction, then nothing's addiction.
Right.
So my whole point behind that is I personally, I think, if you call it the word addiction, again, is hardly ever used anymore anyway. They're moving it to substance use disorder, which again, I mean, I don't know. I know there's stigma attached to addiction, but I'm like, okay, well, how long is it going to be before substance use disorder has a stigma? I mean, we're the ones who put the stigma there, for God's sakes.
Our culture's very fond of wordplay.
I know, but you just move it, and then all of a sudden it gets, well, how long then does that one?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Then substance use disorder is pejorative.
Right.
Yeah.
So then they just circle back to addiction. So we recycle it.
Right.
Well, but so my point there is, I think you do a disservice to the client when you miscategorize what it actually is. If you my treatment plan is going to change for a client who I think has maybe, I don't know, a few compulsive problems or impulsive problems for that matter versus a full blown addiction to something. Like my treatment plan is different. Right. So you call it that. And then it turns into something that it's not. And then that's where, like prior to this, we were talking about this. Like sometimes clinicians just overestimate what's going on with this. And the client needs to be in inpatient rehab when in reality, no, probably not.
Right.
So I'm not saying it's not a problem. Morally, I think it's pretty neutral. You get to make your own determination on whether porn's bad or good.
Right.
The question I have is it causing problems in your life? And if it is, let's discuss the degree of those problems.
That's our job as therapists.
That's it. That's it. And develop a treatment plan. But I mean, just doing these blanket terms, pornography, addiction, sex, it just makes it so. And plus, people who don't. It makes also the other side of it who like totally disagree with it. Like sex health therapists or something.
Right.
Man, it's just an endless debate. And I'm like, well, there are dudes with problems, though.
Right.
For sure.
Right.
And I don't care what the issue is. Can I just talk to those guys?
Right.
Rather than tell them.
It's all addiction. Don't kink shame. It's like, look, just.
Well, and it gets to like kind of a weird flip of like a value imposition, right? Like, so to unpack some stupid clinical jargon, right? Like a value imposition, like, so I'm an active member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I can't say, you know what, guy, as part of treatment, I think you need to read the Book of Mormon.
Right.
Yeah. Even if I at my core believe, hey, I think this is good for me, right? I think it's be helpful for him.
If you had an LDS client, like maybe you're having a conversation.
And the client said, hey, I would like LDS values incorporated in my treatment.
Right? Like I'll tell my clients, like when they start bringing up church stuff, I'll say like, hey, look, I speak the language. I'm an active member of the church. I'm not your bishop, though. You know what I mean? Like I'm not like no part of, if you say like, oh, I'm not living church standards. Oh, well, off with your head, you're out of treatment, right? I can't do that. Like I'm going to lose my license if I do that, and I shouldn't do that either, right?
Right.
But the other half of that is like, if I like to your point of like the highly like sex positive therapist, like maybe they start to impose those values then, right? And the whole point of like effective therapy is, we talk endlessly about we have to meet the client where they are. Right. And I can't impose my values on them, whatever those values are or aren't. I'm here to look at, hey, we need to improve your functioning in your life.
Exactly.
Right. Like that's the core. Like let's help you feel better. Let's help you do better in your life.
Well, right. And so this is my pitch to that is because think of how, like I had 2 clients and the one most recently, like he said he had really hard time with pornography and his was pretty bad. I mean, he was talking to me about, he watched it for sometimes 8 hours a day.
Whoa.
And and it would really consume his life and it affected his ideas about sex and stuff like that. And then he went to prison. So he offended. He had a pretty violent offense, by the way. And then he offended and went to prison and then he came back out. Now, nice enough guy. And he was able to, acquire a lady friend in the meantime, while he's out there, disclosed his offense, totally cool with it.
Yeah.
A few months go by and then comes the time for him to, become intimate with her. And when he came to session, he was pretty terrified of this because he brought to my attention, he's like, I couldn't get an erection. And I was like, oh, well, that's kind of scary. Right. Yeah. And so then I talked to him about that and I'm like, okay, well, I mean, I don't know, you're an older guy, you're late 50s, maybe it's, ED. So when I talked to a doctor, he got prescribed Cialis or whatever, took that, still didn't work, right? Still couldn't get an erection. Terrified. And then he got so terrified of this, he went back and looked at porn, which was kind of a weird subcategory. Nothing illegal, but looked at porn, and then was able to get an erection and masturbated and then had an orgasm. So I'm like,
he broke his brain.
Right.
So what I'm saying is okay, psychologically something's up there, right? Sure. Has to be.
Right.
Okay. So for me to just, and he says, I have to deal with this. This is a huge problem. Obviously it's a problem.
Yeah.
So what am I going to do? Nothing about that is inappropriate or unhealthy. You can look at it whenever you want. Like that.
Yeah,
that's what I'm going to tell you.
Missed the boat.
That's what I'm going to tell
absolutely.
you. Like, yes, I understand that. Morally or whatever, there isn't a problem. I'm telling you, this guy is coming to me and he's suffering with this issue.
Right.
So to me to just shit all over that and say, no, it's not real.
Nope.
Fake news.
It's all in your head.
Right.
Come
you
on,
start
man.
where the client is.
Right.
Saying.
So I think people listening to this, what I would say is, the qualify for addiction, you make the call on that. Addiction's a meaningless word these days anyway. So, but for the love of Jehovah, just recognize where the problem is with the client. Start where the client is and develop your treatment plan accordingly.
Right.
Clients do the same thing. Like, don't say I'm addicted to, peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. It's just not. Say, here's the issue that it's causing. Let's work on that issue.
Right.
Real simple.
Right.
So I don't know. You have the last word. I wanted to say something.
Hit it, Jeff.
I just had a realization, man. That client of yours, I'll bet you the average viewing time on Pornhub was probably 2 minutes.
Yeah.
That guy bumped it up to 10 by himself, 8 hours a day.
I wonder if they throw those outliers out.
I don't know. That was my wonderful thought. But no, I'm with you guys. Start where the client is. Don't inject your values on them. Let's quit trying to find the cool word to make it fit.
Right. Yeah. That all we want to talk about?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, hey, thanks for coming, man. We got to do this again soon, huh?
Let's do it.
Yeah. That was a good chat. And that about does it for this episode of the Guerrilla Social Work Podcast. If you haven't already, take a couple of seconds and give us a 5-star rating. Keep those 3 and 4-star ratings to yourself. I mean it. And those of you who are thinking about a 1-star rating, come on, bro. Don't make it weird. Please reach out to us at guerrillasocialworkpodcast@gmail.com, and please help us grow by sharing with family and friends. We'd love to stay and chat, but we're lying. Good night.